Hi, everyone. Hoping you all had a wonderful Easter break, Easter vacation, and you got some rest and you got caught up with your work. Most of you are pretty current with your work, and I'm pleased with that. And many of you do very, very good work in this class, so I'm also pleased with that. It's kind of hard in this class to do this online because so many of the issues really demand that we talk together about them and we explore our feelings and our ideas and our knowledge about these different areas. But it's very difficult to do that in an online class. And as I've told you before, I have really not liked the written interactions that many classes like this use. So basically, this is a class for you to learn and contemplate and think about individually many of these issues and how they impact our schools, what we expect of our schools, what we expect our teachers to do, how we expect our students to interact, how we expect the community to support schools. All of these things are the issues that really are at play when we think of these things in our communities and in our class. So with that said, I want to mention that a number of you have fallen behind. About 4 or 5 of you are really kind of behind in your assignments. And if this doesn't apply to you, you can just wait until I'm finished here. But I need for you to email me and explain what your situation is and why you might have fallen so far behind. Because in fact, over the last 3 weeks, proportionally, you actually had less work assigned to you, and we only have 2 more assignment segments left. So you need to get those things done. And at this point, I'll be grading papers by the end of this week. By Sunday, I should be finished. And anything that's turned in up to that point, I will accept, although I already know who's behind, who hasn't turned work in. And your work will be docked. In other words, you'll get a grade, but you wouldn't get the grade you would have gotten had it been on time. But I don't want anyone to be flunking out of this class. There's no need for that. You need to be able to catch up, and so you have that opportunity, even though it's at a reduced rate grade, okay? So I hope you'll take advantage of that. But if you know that you're 2 or 3 assignments behind or more, email me. Talk to me about what your situation is. I know my policy is no late work, but I also know that there can be circumstances that happen to us. So please let me know what's going on in your world and let me communicate together with you. Our last 2 assignments were huge. The whole segment on poverty, I hope you realize what a huge impact that has. And what is such a travesty in the United States, which is one of the wealthiest countries in the entire world, is that we have this huge poverty pocket in this country, and it's not just African Americans, it's not just poor Latinos, it's not just poor immigrants. There are many, many, many Anglo-Saxon, what you might call WASP white kids who live in poverty as well. And it really does impact their learning, as you must have seen. It even impacts the DNA, hunger and abuse and trauma. All have a huge impact on whether and how students learn. You're going to see, if you're in 154A and you're going to go to the seminar, you're also going to get an extension on this whole issue of trauma and how it affects students. What I realize we need is a lot of work on how to work with students who experience this kind of trauma and poverty, how we help those students overcome the deficits that this causes for them, and still give them that opportunity for learning that they deserve. That brings us, of course, to the idea of equity, because equity is that idea that everybody in this country, every student, deserves to have a free, high-quality education. And in this class, we are focusing on students of color, refugee students, immigrant students, and I'm not focusing on special ed students, because that is another class, and I feel as though that needs to be addressed in that class, although that is part of this whole issue of equity. But there are so many topics that we're trying to get under our belts in this class. And I want you to realize that all of them have to do with, again, what the pressures are on schools, what the pressures are on teachers, what the pressures are on students, what the pressures are on communities, and how all of those interact to make decisions around our schools. You know, of course, that our schools are underfunded. They always are, and we always complain about it, and yet we go on teaching because we love students and we realize the importance of education for the future of our country. And it is for the future of our country. You're going to see more of that in the assignments to come. Our next set of assignments will be about desegregation, some of the court cases that were the underlying foundational reasoning for leading up to the Brown versus the Board of Education, and the idea of equity and desegregation in order to achieve equity, and whether or not we've achieved that. So you'll see that in one of the next assignments. Also, we're going to be touching on racism. Racism is just a huge, huge topic. And so I've included some definitions of racism so we can be thinking about it in the same terms. And also I've given you an article to read on the effects of racism and how it affects students and their learning, because it's very similar to poverty. Racism perhaps is a form of abuse, whether it's overt, that is specifically targeted and chosen, or whether it's a sort of hidden racism. And there is all kinds of hidden racism, as we know. Another topic is coming up. I know I mixed up some of the chapters in your textbook and or the little book, The Teacher Wars, and I skipped chapter 7. Well, chapter 7 is going to come up because it's more closely related next in the next segment, having to do with the teachers' unions and the development of the unions. And I hope you're following what's going on with the unions, because the West Virginia teachers just won their strike. They won major concessions in terms of salary and some other issues that they had. The media makes it look like it's all salary, but it wasn't. It was also about charter schools and their effect on public schools. At any rate, you are watching the news, as all educated people do, and all teachers must do. You really need to keep up with the current news always, so that you can talk about it in your classrooms with your students, no matter what you teach. And you'll know that in Oklahoma, teachers are going on strike. In Kentucky, they're talking about going on strike. Across the nation, there really is a lot of unhappiness among the ranks of teachers, because teacher pay during the Great Recession really was decimated and has been stagnant since. So teachers are very far behind in terms of how they're compensated for the kind of work that they're expected to do. And if you're actually student teaching, or you're really paying heed to your curriculum classes, you realize so much is asked of teachers, so much is required of you in terms of understanding how to put lessons together, how to meet the needs of different kids all at the same time in your classrooms. So that's another topic that will be coming up, and that is the teachers' unions. So we have those two assignments that are due next time. After that, we'll be doing quickly multiculturalism, refugees, and high-stakes testing. And then we'll move into the final chapters of the Teacher Wars and a reflection. So a lot still to do. It is really, this class just has so many huge topics to deal with. At any rate, I hope you're all doing well. And again, those few people who need to get in touch with me do get in touch with me. And it seems like I haven't talked to you in ages because of this 3 weeks. But at any rate, we'll talk again. And have a good 2 weeks. I'll see you in about 2 weeks with another feedback. I'm going to end this meeting now.